Hello viewers, today we are starting our series on management decision and control, and that is paper 10, CPA level 2. This is paper 10, and it was previously paper 11 in the previous syllabus, but in this new syllabus it is now paper 10, the new syllabus of 2023-2027. So this is one of the papers that were not affected by the new change, the new syllabus. And the previous notes and the topics that we had, they are carried forward, and they did not put in any new additional topic, meaning that this paper wasn't affected, unlike other papers where some of them were merged. Others, they edited some topics, and others, they deleted some of the topics and all that. But for the MDC, we've seen that the paper is still the same way it was in the previous syllabus, as the same as in the new syllabus. So therefore, we are concluding that the previous materials and the videos we had are still relevant for the new syllabus, because we said that the MDC, or management decision and control, it is a level 2 paper, meaning since it is a level 2 paper, there are some level 1 papers that are leaking up, or that are giving it a foundation. And these level 1 papers that are acting as our foundation study for the MDC paper, we have the quantitative techniques, commonly known as QT, that is paper 3, and the cost and management accounting, that is paper 6. And those two, we are going to need knowledge from them. Most of the topics that we discussed in those course units, we are going to see that we are going to be seeing that most of them are going to be reflecting in the MDC paper. In other words, it's these two papers that are forming a foundation level for the MDC paper. Remember, the MDC paper is the last management paper as far as costing and management is concerned in the CPA course or syllabus. So that's basically what we are going to be looking at for today. However, when you try to look at the previous performance as far as management decision and control is concerned, we are seeing that the performance or the pass rate is not all that good. So the performance is not all that good, not because this paper is too hard, but you find that people just don't take it. Like if someone has maybe attended or cost and management accounting, they may think maybe they have all what it takes for them to pass the management decision, and they put in less focus on it. So MDC paper is a very wide paper which needs more and more attention. So as we said, the performance is not all that good, which calls for more attention as far as we are handling from the starting point until we finalize our topics. So that will be calling for your effort as a student to make sure you at least complete 80% of the syllabus to be able to see something or to be able to understand something. And because the higher you take, the more time you give to this paper is the more that you are going to be passing this paper with ease. So what I'm going to be doing is to try and make sure that we simplify some of these concepts and we make them very easy for everyone to understand. Even if you had an exemptions in terms of the cost and management accounting, or you had an exemption in the duty, you will also catch up and be able to pass this paper with ease. So we are going to be getting these simplified approaches on how we are going to be handling some of the scenarios that have been given in the question. But at the end of the day, we are seeing that the focus is always on the student. If at all you give it your time, it will also yield what you want to achieve. So even those who are just rewriting this paper, if maybe you had attempted this paper before, you have done it maybe twice, or you have done it once and you didn't make it, don't lose hope. We said the pass rate is not all that good, meaning that there may be some students who actually rewriting this paper for maybe for the second time, third time, but here we are going to simplify all the concepts. It's all about you to give it your best and you try to understand some of these basics. So the only advice I can give for someone who is rewriting this paper is the fact that you actually failed in the previous attempts doesn't mean you can't pass this paper. But my recommendation is that you have to refocus and start afresh on every aspect that you are taking. If maybe it is a topic and maybe you think you understood it the other time, so when you're doing it this time, make sure you start afresh. Don't assume that maybe you know some of these aspects and maybe you just, because there is a tendency, you find someone maybe the pass rate is 50%, someone has gotten 47, and you start thinking, me, I'm just looking for only 3% to pass. This is not how it is going to be working, because the fact that you have actually got 47, it means they have added some marks which you didn't even score. So you may find when you had maybe scored 40, because they normally give some additional marks for pushing students to pass. So the key point here is that you have to refocus, start everything afresh. So as we said, this paper 10 is just built from the level 1 notes and the knowledge in QT, that is quantitative techniques, and the cost and management accounting. But as we said, most of the students are exempted for cost and management accounts. That cost and management accounting, if maybe the institute gave you an exemptions and you didn't do it at level 1, you'll find that some of the students studied long time and they have actually forgotten some of the things that they studied under their degrees and all that. So by the time they gave you these exemptions, you did those courses a long time ago. So I don't think you can be able to still remember all these concepts. So it's part of the reasons as to why there are so many failure rates. The pass rates are very few because some people, they think they know by using what they studied a long time and they can't actually remember. But we have the good thing, we have videos that are relating to cost and management accounting on our YouTube. You can go there, check, and be able to get a refresher on some of the aspects or the basics that are covered within cost and management accounting. In a sense that when you go to MDC, at least you have a fresh mind of the things that are going to be covered in management decision and control. So what I'm going to be recommending for maybe the person who are actually going to sit maybe for this paper in December, or you are just redoing it, is to actually have some of the things, a scientific calculator, have some past papers, because we said MDC doesn't actually change, or it has not been changing for the previous syllabus. So I would have advised maybe you get past papers from maybe 2008 to date, because by the time you go through those questions that were examined in those previous sittings, you will have an understanding of some of these basics and some of the way how these examinations are going to be examined in different topics. So I would recommend from maybe 2008 to date. But as far as the classes we are going to be going through, the videos we are going to be uploading, they are going to be at least using the questions from 2008 to date, because we assume that since this course, the MDC course, has not been changing for the previous syllabuses, so we assume that at least we'll get something that is a bit deeper. Maybe it is covering like 2 syllabuses, and we get questions how they were examining some of these aspects that we are going to be looking at now. By the time we finish this, I'm very sure everyone will be able to achieve their pass rates and do according to how they have actually understood these concepts. But for those who can't access these papers, you can download them on the institute. You log in with your student account and you put all the passwords, then you go and download these question papers. For those who can't actually access this, we have a Telegram channel where you can download some of those past papers. You'll be able to see what we we are going to be talking about, because there are those who are attending that but they don't have access to the website. They maybe they are studying from maybe CPA's global course. You may find that some of these people can't access them, but we have a Telegram where we post these questions for you guys to go and download. It's there on our YouTube channel. You pick the link and follow through so that you can be able to download some of the question papers. So having seen that, the things we need calculators, past papers. Maybe you can put on even the graph papers, but those ones, they are just one of items where we are supposed to be using these graph papers. But the basics, we get the calculator and the past papers. The rest, we are going to be picking the knowledge from our YouTube channel. So as we have said, can first of all try to look at the overall aim for this MDC paper. Why is it important for CPA to include the MDC, or the management decision and the control? It's what we are going to be looking at. But as we said that the MDC paper, for those who are doing SCCA, it is the same as performance management. There are some very few topics that you find we are covering this side, the other side they are not covering them. There are those they are very few they add on that we don't actually cover here. But all what we are going to be discussing is examined with, so long as you are doing performance management, or you are doing management decision and control, or when you're doing cost and management accounting. Most of these, even those which you didn't understand under the cost and management accounting, it's the right time for you guys to pick them from here. We are seeing that the overall aim of MDC, or what the examiner or the institute, what they had to include MDC in the CPA syllabus. What is the relevance of this MDC in the CPA syllabus or in the CPA qualification? It's what we are going to be looking at. And we have seen many papers. Since we have seen many papers being merged, but MDC is still standing, it's like it's not going to change. The way it was, it is the same way it is now. It means it's a paper which is very relevant for this CPA paper. Therefore, we are seeing that according to the institute, the overall aim for introducing this paper is to equip the learner. We are getting this from here. To equip the learner with the knowledge and skills to analyze financial and non-financial information, to support management decision, and provide advice in different situations. You can actually see that even in different situations, it has been bolded. The implication there is that MDC is the aspects or the scenarios that we are going to be looking at. We are looking at real life situations, the things that are really happening in the day-to-day organizations. And those are the things that we are going to be looking at. So the work of these tutors or the work of these people who are providing the tuition, the tuition providers. We are looking at a scenario whereby these tutors, they can be able to provide the knowledge and skills to the learners so that those learners can be able to analyze the exam questions, because what happens in MDC is that questions are in just cases. You may find that there are cases or scenarios where a student will be required to analyze them and know what the examiner wants, and therefore gives the solution. Some of these questions that we are going to be looking at, they are not as direct as they should be, but they try to make sure that these questions are going to bring out scenarios that are actually happening in the real life or in the day-to-day operations of the business. So finally, as we said MDC is the last management paper in the CPA course. So it is really testing all the aspects, since we are going to be examined. We are going to be examining this paper for the last time, because it's our last management paper, and all what these examiners they are looking at, or we are going to be looked at as the advisors, because we are going to be looking at the certain scenarios that are going to be happening in a given situation that has been given in the question. We be able to advise, or we give solutions to whichever case that may be happening. So the examiners are going to be looking at us, the students of MDC, as the advisors. So since we are going to be advisors, then it means that we are responsible for making proper decisions, or for guiding to the other people so that they can be able to make proper decisions. So we are going to be looking at all the aspects where we can be able to make decisions within the management. We are going to look at situations where we are going to be using some of the things that we learn here, and we'll be able to solve cases that are going to be asked for in the examination. So having seen the overall aim, or the reason as to why ISPA included management decision and control within the CPA course, we said, one, we are trying to make sure that we advise the intended persons so that they can be able to make proper decisions when we are dealing with real life situations. So that's mainly the reason as to why ISPA wants you, before you become a CPA, you must be able to advise these companies or different people according to what they are experiencing. And it's the role of we, the tutors, to be able to simplify some of these basics so that you can be able to make a proper decision as you are advising a given person. So that's the aim. Maybe we can try to look at the learning outcomes. What we expect to achieve after completing this course, or what the institute expects the learners to have acquired at the end of because at the end of the day, if you pass this paper, we expect that at least you've actually got these learning outcomes. You may not get all of them, but at the end of the day, you can't just pass, because these are not the questions, as we say, they are not going to be all that direct. You're supposed to see the case, explain, and give a solution. Or you can evaluate and give a solution. And that's what we actually going to be looking at. So before we go to the level of assessment, let's try to look at what do we expect as the learners to acquire at the end of the day if we complete this course. So these are the things every learner must have at their fingertips before they are attempting any paper of MDC. Because at the end of the day, if you have gone through the MDC course and you have not achieved these learning outcomes, it means you can't actually even pass the paper in the first place. So these are the things we are going to be looking at, that before you attempt the final paper, you must have understood some of these outcomes. And these are the things we expect you to be having. There are 7. So the good thing with the institute, you find that some of these learning outcomes, they are even printed before you actually start or before you embark on a given course. They give you the syllabus. You see the things we are going to be covering. You see the aim for including that paper in that course. You see even what they expect you to be having before you see the paper. Then at the end of the day, they give you how they access, how you have actually learned the courses that are included there. So these are the things that we are going to be looking at. We said number 1, we are going to be discuss the learning outcome is to discuss the role of management accountant in an organization. Because we said we are going to be managers, we are going to be advisors, we are going to be management accountants. We are expecting that at the end of the day, you actually know your role as an advisor or a management accountant in an organization. These are the things that the examiner is going to be testing, whether the student has actually highlighted the skills and they have actually understood some of these basics that have been taught in the syllabus. Because for the information, for the reason as why they are giving these learning outcomes, because it's the same way as to why they keep on changing these syllabuses. They want to see their relevance in the real life situations, so that when they remove this, at least they put something that is actually happening on the ground. By the time you graduate, you have actually gained what it takes for you to be at that point. So we said we discussed the role of management accountant in an organization. Here we look at the student as a management accountant. And the management accountant is someone whom is just waiting for people's reports to analyze. You find that the management accountant is waiting for the financial statements from the financial accountant, the cost accountant, and that person will just be able to offer advice after reading through their reports. In other words, these management accountants, you are not going to find them preparing reports, preparing what? For them, their role is to look into the reports that have been prepared by the financial accountant, the management accountant, the tax, and all that. What they do, they look at those reports, then they give advice according to what their findings are. Or they may say that instead of you using this method, if maybe it was ABC system that you had actually used, they may say, oh, you had used maybe the traditional approach. They may say maybe you try and look at the ABC system and use it so that you can be able to get some of these, or to get a better position depending on what you're presenting now. That kind of advice is what the management accountant is going to be doing. But he only does that after seeing the reports that have been prepared by different stakeholders or by different heads of department of a given department. So, but however, these management accountants, because we said this course is going to be basically real life situations. What happens in some organizations due to resource problems, you find that not all these organizations, they are going to be having a management accountant. Because we said we have a resource challenge. And therefore some companies, they can't afford to hire the three accountants. They have the management accountant, they have the financial accountant, they have the tax accountant, and you find that one organization is having like 4 accountants. That's how it should be, but you find that due to the resource challenge, some of them, they don't have they haven't expanded to that extent that they need all those that are going to be doing almost the same thing. So what these organizations do, they only hire one accountant, and it will be that accountant, it will be that one to do all the 3 roles that are going to be there in an organization. You find that they have hired one accountant, is the one responsible for managing reports, is the one preparing even some of those reports, is the one even giving the advices. So that's what happens in the real life situations, that find one organization is hiring one accountant. We are talking of the chief accountant, or maybe whatever they call that person, but is that person who is responsible for giving even the advice, preparing all the statements and all that have been done by all these accountants that we may be having in an organization. But in manufacturing companies, they have actually to specify whenever they are hiring. They can say they can only combine maybe the management and the cost accountant. Those two, they can combine them together. But the finance and the tax, you may find that those two, they may put different people, because these manufacturing companies, you find that they have a lot of transactions. And what they normally do is to produce goods. Producing goods, it means you are going to be incurring many costs, which will call for a cost accountant or a cost and management accountant, because it will be that person that is going to help you save the costs you are going to incur in the production of the goods that we are seeing. So you may find in the manufacturing company, we have a financial accountant, we have a cost and management accountant, and maybe we may have maybe the head of finance, and you find that they are all handling different cases because the organization is big. But for the examination purposes, we always refer to these students as management accountant, whether it is not happening in a real life situation, but the examiner is going to be looking at you as a management accountant. Even when they say, you may find at the end of the question, when they are after the case, you have seen the required, they may say, as a management accountant, advise, or as a senior management accountant, advise on what ABC, on what this and this and this can be done, on how best this can be done. That's what we are going to be seeing in the questions. You find that at the end of the day, the examiner is saying, as a management accountant, advise on what should be done. So that's what we need from there. As we discussed the roles, we've seen the roles, and we said the main one is to make advice, or to offer proper advice. Not even just an advice, but a proper one. So the second learning outcome is to provide advice in different management decisions, in different management decision-making situations. This one, we discussed it. Of course, we discussed this one in the first one, but the examiner will attempt to provide situations or cases for you to advise. We said MDC is not going to be all that direct. They are going to give you situations or scenarios or cases. You read the case, you interpret and analyze to see what the examiner wants. And by doing so, you are solving a problem, or you are providing a solution to the challenge. So that's the second learning outcome. The third one, we are looking at develop organizational budgets using appropriate techniques. Develop organizational budgets using appropriate techniques. So we are seeing that budgeting is one of the topics. Actually, we are going to be seeing budget. Budgeting is one of the topics that we will come across, and it is very hard to find any MDC paper where they don't talk about budgets. Either the examiner may tell you to explain the steps that are involved in budgeting or the budgeting process, or they may actually tell you to prepare these budgets. Because at the end of the day, if let's say you're a manufacturing company, what we actually do when we are manufacturing these products, we first of all forecast the number of units of the raw materials we are going to be using in an organization, the capital we have. We make a budget for that, for the cash we have, or what we expect even to receive. So there is no way you can do management decision and control and you don't talk about the budgets, because at the end of the day, you are advising these organizations, and the organizations, they are moving on budgets. If something is going to be done, it means there was a budget for that item within an organization, and that's why it's done. So that's why one of the aims is to develop organizational budgets using appropriate techniques. So our aim is to look at the techniques or the methods that we can use to develop the organizational budgets, and the different budgets we are going to look at. So the fourth one is to apply quantitative models to managerial decision problems. We apply quantitative models to managerial decision problems. Meaning, because just like the way we discussed the things at the start, we said this paper is, we have a foundation paper at level 1, that is quantitative techniques, which we called QT, paper 3 at level 1. We said there we are looking some of the quantitative, the things that we can actually compute, not the qualitative factors or the qualitative aspects, but here we are focusing on the quantitative models, as we are going to see them, the linear programming and all that. We are going to be looking at them. Because we said level 1, we have QT and the cost and management accountant. And in the QT, mainly, we learned about the quantitative techniques like the linear programming, simplex methods, graphical, all that we are going to be using when we are analyzing some of the aspects or some of the scenarios that may be given in the question. So we need to know how to apply them for decision making. Not because in QT we're used of making computations and we leave, so long as we get the answers right, we leave there. So what we do in management decision and control, after computing and we've got those answers correctly, we have to advise, to make a comment or to evaluate basing on what we've got as a result. So we are focusing on the quantitative models or the quantitative methods, but at the end of the day, we have to tailor them and make an advice, or we advise accordingly. That's the fourth outcome. Then the fifth outcome, we are looking at, we apply accounting control techniques to managerial decisions. We apply accounting control techniques to managerial decisions. The reason why they named this paper because we're seeing this paper, it is basing on some of the accounting aspects. Some of the things that we see in accounting, we find them also here under management. Because at the end of the day, what we are looking at what is happening, and we base on what maybe other standards are guiding us, and also we make a decision basing on some of the accounting controls that we have in place. So, as a matter of fact, it means that if we are going to be applying accounting control techniques to managerial decisions, it means we are going also to need the knowledge for accounting. That's why you find that these papers, they come after when someone has done maybe financial accounting, is to make sure that at least the knowledge you've got to the other side, it doesn't go to waste. It is applied even in the higher levels. And that's how CPA course is. The knowledge you've got in another paper can help you do another one. Just like you see some of the topics are cutting across. You see that maybe risk analysis is cutting across everywhere. You find it is there in financial reporting, it is there in financial management, it is there in financial accounting. The reason is they want us, at least by the time we complete the syllabus, we have actually understood some of the things that are going to be used in the solving the real life situations. That's why we are also going to be needing the accounting aspect. Then the learning outcome number 6, we are looking at evaluate performance of business segments. If you have a business, you have always to do the performance evaluation. And it is very key for the business. If you are a business, you are supposed to do performance evaluation for every segment or for every department within the organization to see that at the end of the day, we assign some of these people to do this role. Are they doing what we expect, or are they helping us to achieve our vision and mission? That's why we do performance evaluation as a business, because it is key. It helps us to follow up on the organization plans. If at all maybe we had planned, we are going to be by this, maybe by 5 years, we should have achieved maybe a profit of, let's say, 10% per annum. Every year you're achieving 10%. So we do the performance evaluation to see that are we been achieving what we actually set for the organization. And also we can use those performance evaluations to hold people accountable for their actions. You may find that maybe someone has been employed or has been hired as maybe the head of finance, and we are seeing you authorize maybe purchase of certain assets. Then we hold you accountable that you purchase these items, but do we actually need them? Are they adding value to the organization? Those are the things we hold people accountable for their actions. If at all they did, that's why you find with the CPA they have codes of conduct. If at all someone goes or violates those ones, we find that maybe they can retract their certificates and their membership and all that. So we said we evaluate performance of the business segments. Reason to hold people accountable. Secondly, to make sure we follow up on the organization plans, what we had planned. Have we achieved or we haven't? An example, we said we can look at maybe if the company employs maybe a manager, and you find that the owner will have to evaluate the manager's action. Because if, let's say, some of these companies, you may find they are belonging to a group. They have a group, maybe the head office is based maybe in South Africa, but they have a branch in Uganda. The CEO of the group appoints a CEO who is going to be leading the branch called Uganda. So you find that the other CEO is not going to be interfering in the performance or in the management of the organization of the branch called Uganda. But what that person will only be doing is to look at the reports that are coming in and try to evaluate the performance basing on the organization policies and what they wanted to achieve. So those are the things we look at. If you see the person is not maybe performing well according to the plans that you had set, you may try maybe to fire the person, or if you see the person is performing well, then you can also see how you can arrange for bonuses and all that. So then the last one as our learning outcome is we look at applying, or we apply advanced management accounting techniques, the application of the advanced management accounting techniques. So these advanced management accounting techniques, we are going to be looking at them because they also form a topic of its own within this MDC paper. And we shall look at them. We find these are the things that we are going to be looking at, or these are the things by the time you finish MDC paper, we expect at least you have achieved some of them. And if you have actually not achieved maybe anything, you may find that you will not actually even pass the paper in the first place. So that's how it is. So having seen the learning outcomes, then let's try to look at the level of assessment. So we need to do the level of assessment. We need to look at the level of assessment. And this is always what the examiner is trying to look out for. When someone sets the paper, what he or she is trying to examine or looking for in a student, because you can take an example. I may set the paper and I may not mark it. And therefore, when I set a paper, we need to put the marking guide. In that, the other person who is actually going to be marking it may need to follow the marking guide provided. Because at the end of the day, if the person who is going to be setting the paper is not actually the person who is going to be marking the exam, or is not going to be the person who is actually marking the students, you find that there are other people who are hired to mark the students. So what happens is that there must be marking guide, someone to follow through to see what the students have done vis-a-vis to what they have actually agreed as what should have been done by the student according to what they asked. So the level of assessment is normally done at the point when the paper is being set. So by the time you prepare you set the paper, you also put the marking guide. It may be adjusted accordingly if there are no, to see whether there are errors that have been done. If they are not there, then we just release and give the exams to the students. So we have to look at the institute, the level of assessment according to the institute, because they give us, because they are saying the level of assessment, the examination will test the ability of the learner to interpret, analyze, and apply the knowledge and skills acquired to real life situations. This is what I've been talking about, real life situations, what is actually happening on the ground. So they are going to be testing the ability of the learner to interpret, analyze, evaluate, and apply the knowledge and skills acquired to real life situations. Meaning the examination is going to be full of situations that are going to be, or cases that are going to be actually happening. They may not throw out the exact company which is experiencing that scenario, but they may say maybe ABC Limited, T Limited, and all that, but they are relating to a company which is actually experiencing the same. So for you are guiding, but you are guiding something that is actually happening on the ground. So the examination will be looking at, can you be able to interpret? Or if it was you who was in that situation, how would you advise the company for the better, depending on what is happening? So we are saying that we are seeing that here the examination is the examiner is trying to see your ability to interpret, analyze, evaluate, and apply the knowledge and skills acquired to real life situations. Real life situations is very important, because we see that when exams are set, they try to talk about the examples and companies that are commonly known. And those companies are going to be commonly known to Uganda because this is CPA Uganda. The examples that, or the scenarios that they are going to be bringing out, they are going to be based on what is happening in the country. That's what we mean real life situations. So what they actually looking for, they want the student to easily relate and try to bring the practical examples. What this means is that even when you as a student you are answering these questions, you have to make sure that at least you give examples that are actually happening in the real world or in the real country, based on what the situation has been all about. You may find there are so many scenarios. They may be talking about maybe a company that is maybe in an industry of, let's say, power production. But you may see that the case which the examiner is trying to bring out is relating to a certain company which is actually happening. So you may try to give that as an example, because you see the things they may be doing, and you see the things that the examination is talking about. But remember, we said in the examination, we don't expect the real life examples to point out the exact companies that are actually happening. If, let's say, the company is in the communication industry, you will not find an exam that is talking about MTN Uganda or Airtel Uganda. They may bring a name that is not the company that is happening here, but the kind of situation they are talking about is actually happening even to the MTN Uganda, but they are not mentioning out the real companies. Because it's for instance, you may see, if we, the students who are going to be doing those examinations, we are part of the people who are working there. If maybe the scenario the examiner was bringing was negative to the company, how would you react? So that's why the institute is not allowed to use the real names of the companies that are actually happening. Because at one point, the scenario may be bothering the organization, or it may affect badly. It may have an impact to the organization if at all it has been said. That's why they are bringing the names of the companies that are actually not here. But if you follow the case is relating to a certain company, and that's how it is. So what that calls for is that the mode of answering questions should also try to bring out the real life examples, where students should try to relate the case or the scenario in the question to the real life companies, especially in Uganda. to be able to score more marks. Because there are certain cases where the student cannot actually even explain. You find that the person has the point, but the person cannot even explain the point. But you know the example that can actually bring out the explanation, or which can give more clarity on the issue that has been talked about. You give the example. Because you find that you have the point, but you can't even explain it. But you have an example. You can use an example to explain, because it is actually happening. Meaning you are relating what is happening on the ground to what the examiner is talking about. And that kind of answering is what the examiner is looking for, because you've been able to interpret the question. Meaning, by the time you give out an example which is right, it means you have interpreted, you have analyzed, and you have evaluated the question. And now we are just applying the knowledge you've got in class to solve the case. That's basically what all we are going to be looking at in the CPA course. For today, we may try to look at maybe a bit on the exam structure, but that one is not all that important, because what is important is these items that I have highlighted. Because the exam structure, we are going to look at all the topics. We are going to finalize everything. So it may look important, maybe as a starting point, we may give an highlight of it, but we are going to be looking at each and every topic that is going to be, that is on the syllabus of MDC. So maybe to talk about the exam layout or the examination structure. And we are saying that this examination structure is going to be the layout of the paper, how the paper will look like. One, we are going to be seeing that there's going to be a 3-hour examination. We are going to be having 3 hours, 3 and 15 minutes, 3 hours and 15 minutes. That's the kind of examination that we are going to be having. It is made up of section A and section B. And section A will comprise of one compulsory number. It will be that one question that will be carrying 40 marks. So the section B will comprise of 4 questions, of which each question will be taking 20 marks. But from that, the student will be, or the candidate will be required to attempt any 3 questions. So this means section A will give us 40 marks, and section B will give us the remaining 6 marks to make it 100. That's how the examination, or the layout is going to be. So maybe to give a more clear aspect on the section B, we are seeing that more marks are going to come from section B. And someone may wonder, what if I don't even, maybe, what if I don't attempt maybe section A, then I only attempt 3 numbers in section B perfectly. And you think maybe you can do them perfectly and you maximize all the 60 marks, and you don't even tamper with section A, which is compulsory. Because section A being compulsory doesn't mean that you are supposed to do it. you can actually forget about section A and you do the section B, you pass. Because we are seeing that section A has 60 marks. Section B has 60 marks, section A has 40 marks. Meaning, if you do the section B and you get your 50%, the rule is make sure you get 50%. If you get 50%, you have passed, whether you've got it in section A, but you can't get it in section A. If you get it in section A and B, or you get all the 50 marks from section B, so long as you get 50 marks, you have passed. That's how it is. So what we are going to be seeing is that I want to have I want to give you a scenario on how you can be able to attempt some of these questions. A layout that will help each and every student according to the layout of level 2 questions or level 2 papers. We are seeing that most of level 2 papers, they have section A that has a higher marks, or that has one question which is taking a lot of marks. But what that means, it means taking higher marks, it means it is also taking more time for you to complete. So I want to take you through a time management aspect or a time management bit when you're doing those papers, when you're doing level 2 papers. At least you have an aspect of how you should at least do, or how you should behave in an examination to be able at least to maximize the marks and be able to work within the optimal time that has been given of the 3 hours and 15 minutes. But remember, the 15 minutes are for preparation. So those ones you don't even count. Just take only 3 hours. But as we said, someone can do section A and gets his 50 marks and passes. To emphasize this, it is nearly impossible for someone to just do section A and say you are going to complete the pass. Because some of these questions, the way they set them, you find that one paper or one question is mixed up with like 5 topics. You may find that it is very rare for someone to score all the 60 marks and you have only done section B. It's nearly impossible because they bring different. One question, it may have maybe 2 topics or 3 topics. You may find that someone has read maybe section A, sorry, part A, but part B is disturbing that person. So the key point here is that you must do all the sections for you to be on a safer side. I'm not saying if you do one, you'll not pass, but you must do all to be on a safer side. So that's the summary of what we are going to be looking at. So to give you a highlight on how we can be able to maximize the marks and we'll be able to work within the time, how we are going to be managing our time. We are going to be seeing that the section A is going to be 40 marks. Section B is going to be for 60 marks. But each question in section B is going to be carrying 20 marks. So, I would recommend at least you start with section B numbers. And you make sure the number you start with, if maybe you've selected your 3 questions, but you are seeing the ones you can maximize the marks. There are two. You first do the two questions. You start with the question where you can actually nearly get 20 out of 20. Then you do another section B, where you can at least get 18 out of 20. If you have done that, then don't do another number for section B. Just go and do the section A number. I'm saying, if you start with the section, you are supposed to start with section B. You pick the question that you can maximize, you get, or maybe nearly to 20, nearly where you can get 20 out of 20. You start with that one. You do another number where you can nearly get 18 to 20 or 18 out of 20. After you have done that, do section A number, that question 1. The logic for that question 1, it is always having so many details. What you do what you can, at least if it is 40%, make sure that at least you can get only 20 or 25 out of that 40. Then you leave it. If you see that you can, the highest you can score and you can do them correctly are 20, just do that 20 and make sure you do it faster. If you see the rest of the parts you can't do them, freeze, ignore them. So long as you have finished the 25 and you are very sure you will get that, just ignore the other ones. And you use the remaining time to do the last number in section B. Even if that last number you get 10 or 8, you will still pass. That's the best advice I can give you as far as managing time is concerned. Because we've seen students, the student spent 2 hours on question 1 that he wants to maximize all the points, the 40 marks. You can't. At one point, even if the question is very easy, you remember these are computations. You may have arithmetic errors, which make the thing of using calculators, and you end up adding, the figures are very many, you are adding each, they are consuming a lot of time. You start with the section B, do 2 numbers there, come to section A, do what you know from that section A. If you have not completed the question, leave it. Go to section B and do the last number. So what we get from this is that we have to manage time. That is the first point. And the second point is we have to complete all the questions that we are supposed to do in a given paper. Maximizing these questions or doing all the numbers will make you get those small points that you keep getting on each question. They keep adding up. That's why if you get the 3 hours and you divide by the 4 questions, by the 5 questions you are or the 4 questions you are supposed to do, you'll find the time. But that time, it should be allocated according to the points that you are going to get. You may find that a section A number will take around 1.5 hours. Then these other one, they should take not exceeding 30, 36 or 40 minutes. That's why when you start with section A, section B, it will take less time and you are very sure with what you are starting with. Because if you start with the section B, there are so many chances that by the time you finish section A number, the head will be tired and you will end up not doing the section B numbers, even if those section B numbers are easy. Because this section A will take a lot of time, it will need a lot of thinking. By the time you reach the other side, you are already tired. Remember, these questions, they mix up. You may find that section A number has about four topics. They are within one question. You bring an idea from this, an idea from the other, an idea from the other point. By the time you keep doing all that, you may find that you have used 2 hours and you end up not even scoring all that, because I don't think you can be able to say you are going to focus on this, you finish it, and you finish also the other numbers in the remaining 1 hour. It is impossible. So it is better you start with the section B numbers, you do 2 numbers from there. Then you do a 1 number from section A. But that 1 number, make sure you do what you know, in that you spend the least time possible. Because the other remaining, if you have done these 2 section B numbers and you've got 40, you've used maybe, you are now maybe remaining with 1.5 hours. But you have done, you've used 1.5 hours to do 2 numbers, and you have already got your 40. You are remaining with 1.5. And that 1.5 you are doing section A. If that section A, you can be able to do what you know in 40 minutes and it is done, you use the remaining 50 minutes to do the other number in section B that you had left. Or even if you use 1 hour for that section A, for the parts you know, and you leave the 30 minutes to do the other section B, because by the time you left the other section B number, it means you didn't know it. You can only score maybe half of it. And that's the logic, or that's the criteria. If at all you get another best option that can help you, make sure you manage time, because what makes these students fail is not that they don't actually know, but it's time management. You find someone knows everything that has been asked, but you can't write everything that has been asked because of time. The time is not always there. So we need to manage time. It's very, very important that we manage time. So that's all for today. And today it has been an introduction, and I wanted you to get some of the things that we are going to, you get a precursor of what we are going to be looking at. Even those who had actually, maybe you have done it, but at least you can use this to refresh. You know what you're going to cover, because we said we are going, there is no starting, there is no, if you are redoing the paper and you're saying, last time I got 45, so I'm just looking for 5. No, you start afresh, because looking for 5, when you have actually failed, it means you are going to fail more. So that's all for today. Until we meet again, when we are starting the real course outline, we look at the things themselves. We are going to start with the management information and communication. That's what we are going to do, and we shall finish that. Then we see what will come next. Thank you for watching. Endeavor to subscribe, because there are more that are coming. So long as you're doing CPA or any professional accounting course, this is where we will get the information that will help us push to where we want to be. So thank you. God bless you.